Alright, gonna give you a quick look around my Kratky garden. So this thing starts in a closet that I'll give you a walk through in a bit. We've got strawberries in these pair of downspouts here, and then various lettuces, cauliflower, broccoli. Over there we've got some jalapenos, and up here we've got more broccoli and some cherry tomatoes. And then over in the buckets, we've got basil, a couple of beefsteaks, and a cucumber. Hey, jumping in from the future real quick, if you know what Kratky means, go ahead and skip ahead to the next chapter. If not, it is a method of passive hydroponic growing developed by Dr. Bernard Kratky of the University of Hawaii. It's gained popularity because it's very easy. It's not set it and forget it, but it's pretty close. It's very manageable for someone with limited space and limited time, so it works very well for me, and it might work for you too. If you want to learn how to do this, I encourage you to check out Keep On Growing with Mike Van Duzy. Seems like a very nice guy, and his channel is very informative. And I've learned to do this just by watching the free videos and kind of cobbling them together. But I guess he has a course out now, so that might work for you as well. If you want to see how it's gone for me, stick around. We're going to go through a quick slideshow of how things got started, and then I'll be back at the end to give you some final thoughts and talk about what's next. We started with this little seed tray kit with the paper singles that came from Amazon for 28 bucks. And it was the first thing that I bought for this project, and it was my first mistake. It worked fine, but the trays are really flimsy and the channels are very shallow. The lids don't fit very well, and they don't have any of the little vents you can open. And since these will last several years and probably many uses, I wish I'd just invested a little more in something a little sturdier. Also, since these seedlings are going into a hydroponic system, I'd have been better served just using rock wool, and that's how I will start my seeds going forward. Our actual seeds came from several sources. I did a fair bit of research on what would be happy in our area and what would work well in our rather confined space. And I found a seed pack on Amazon that had a lot of what I was looking for. So I supplemented that with some beefsteak hybrids and a few things from other sources. I didn't know anything about plants, so I was kind of swimming in jargon at that point. But the YouTubers I was watching gave me a pretty good idea what I was doing, and I think everything went pretty well. We figured out which seeds should be soaked and which seeds we should wait to plant while waiting for them to arrive, and then we got started pretty much that night. I didn't have any heating pads, so I put a small space heater up there and set the thermostat at kind of middle low, poured water in the trays every other day and allowed it to wick up through the soil and open the lids about a half hour a day to combat the mold. We did have a few kinds of mold, a furry white one on the soil that's apparently okay, and then a dark green one that kept popping up on the cardboard. We just swapped the cardboard singles out, so we had a bunch of leftover. Once everything sprouted, the lids came off, and that mold problem pretty much stopped. Like the very first night, a cucumber and a basil sprouted and kind of forced me to figure some things out faster than I was hoping. Thought I was going to have a few more days before I needed lights, including a payday. So I kind of had to scramble, and I got the two little bar lights with the articulating arms that you see in the front there for $23 from Amazon. Not my best purchase. They worked well for the basil and cucumber, but as soon as I set them up, it was really obvious that they were not going to be enough light for everything. So I went back to Amazon for the 2-foot LED shop lights you see hanging behind them. Those came in a 6-pack for $55, and that's definitely what I should have got off the rip. They're great. They're very lightweight, and the cables are super long, so they're very easy to work with. And then they have little adapter clip daisy chain things that you can use, so you can attach them side by side and basically turn two 2-foot lights into one 4-foot light. Their only real downside is that they do drink a fair amount of power. You'll notice the 18-hour day cycle on your electric bill for sure. Next year, I will try and use my solar generator to combat this, I think. Hopefully, I'll have a second one at that point so I can alternate them each day and charge them outside on their off days. Anyway, it was another 5 days before the other seeds sprouted. At that point, we planted another wave of seeds
and I got the second column of light bars up in the closet and got the closet all the way set up. The first set of plants grew very quickly, and we were hoping to get them into the downspouts much earlier than we were able to because we just couldn't fit the trays with the second set of seeds up there with the downspouts. So the initial plants really filled up their little cardboard singles, and cleaning the dirt out of the roots was very irritating. This is about 3 weeks after that first pick. This is Transplantation Day. The second wave of plants were finally ready to go into the pool noodles, and so we were able to get them all transferred over. The downspout project is pretty easy and can be inexpensive if you already have a few of the tools. The downspouts are $17. They're 10 feet long, so you can get 4 or 5 from each, depending on whether you want 2 or 2.5 foot versions. I used a chop saw to cut them down, but I'm sure a hand saw with the right blade would work fine. And then I used a 2-inch hole saw to drill the holes. Those are pretty affordable, assuming you already have a drill. The pool noodles came from Dollar General, and I used a chop saw to cut them down as well. And then the caps for the downspouts are 3D printed. I have a 3D printer, so I did my own, but you can get them from Etsy or eBay very cheap. I will put the files in the description. So once we had everything, we cleaned and sanitized it all, caulked the caps generously, applied them, and let dry overnight. And then we were basically good to go. The downspouts were initially about 80% full of a half-strength master blend solution, so I didn't shock the plants. And then once they got down to about 40%, I refilled it to 80% with a full-strength blend and ran with that from then on. It seemed to work really well, and this was a really rewarding time. Everything was growing, and we could see the changes daily. So this is a week later, and you can see how quickly everything started to grow once it got into the master blend. The basil and the cucumber on the right there forced us to move the lights pretty much daily, and we were topping up the master blend every other day. By the end of this week, everything was so tall that we were really stressing our last frost date so we could get everything outside, and hoping we could do it in time before we ran into the ceiling. So finally, another week passed, and we were able to get everything outside. The sun rises directly behind that far bucket there and passes behind a few trees throughout the day, so maximizing the light was pretty important to our setup. The chain link there is a 10 by 10 kennel that wasn't strong enough to hold my titan of a wolf dog, so I repurposed it to keep the garden safe and give it some structure. It turned out to be about 7.5 by 10 once I fit it into the pad that is behind our shed. I knew I needed to be able to keep the rain off of it so it didn't disrupt the master blend mixture, and I've been kind of struggling with how best to accomplish that for a few weeks. My initial goal was to use the rain barrel in this enclosure here and use the tarp that was going to be keeping the rain off of the plants to also gather the water for the rain barrel. However, the height necessary to do that was difficult for me to figure out in a way that was going to be structurally sound and hold up during storms and such. So I eventually scrapped the combination and split that into 2 projects, which simplified things pretty considerably. So now we have a sand-filled umbrella base holding an 8-foot pipe, and that's capped with a smooth round cap that sits under the tarp and won't rip through it. A few ball bungees on the corners make it pretty easy to deploy and retract. The buckets there have their holes filled in the sides to mitigate the rain issue, but it became clear pretty quickly that I needed some way to trellis the cucumber and tomatoes so that roots would stay in the master blend and they would be able to grow up rather than down. I realized it pretty early in the day and was able to get back on Amazon, and a day later I had these little spools of nylon twine and some plant clips.
So these are the spools I was talking about. They hang from a stainless steel cable and are just spools of nylon twine with this little tooth here that stops it. Really well designed, cheap, and efficient little tool. The twine goes down and is tied around a 2x4, and then here you can see that there are clips that have little teeth that lock into the cable and then go around your plant just to give it some structure and give it the ability to go up, so you can leverage your vertical space a little better in an open area. so I don't have to use the chain link as my only form of trellising. These came in an 8-pack for, I believe, $15, and I highly recommend them. So that's how it's gone so far. If you've seen anything in this whole process that could be improved, please let me know in the comments. We're really hoping to get enough out of this that in the fall we can start working on preservation methods so that we can really get all the learning we can out of this year and really be ready to go full steam next year. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Don't forget we're all in this together, so be excellent to each other and be good to yourself as well.